Final ditch, last push, and candidates are warming their ways and hearts into the hearts of voters. We find out tonight the British interest in our elections. Stay with me, everyone, because the 2023 verdict begins right now. The top stories is the final lap as Nigerians prepare to go to the polls this Saturday, and candidates are pushing even harder. All eyes on Nigeria. We hear from the British High Commissioner what the interest of the UK is about Nigeria's polls. Most lawsuits over Naira redesign. We look at some of these intrigues about the policy of the CBN. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is the 2023 verdict live on Channels Television. I'm sure Kimbaloye in Abuja. Our countdown continues and is going by the second. 3 days, 12 hours, 57 minutes and 20 seconds, and it keeps going down right on the very moment when Nigerians who will be able to elect their new leaders. And we're keeping tabs on what is happening, trying to give you all the information that you need to know that will help you arm yourself as we go ahead with the necessary information to vote the right people into office. So keep your PVC very safe and use it on election day. Before we get into all of what we need to discuss tonight, because tonight I'll be speaking with the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Datti Ahmed, and also we'll be getting to know the reason why the British government is interested in Nigeria's election. There are all those warnings against those who are planning to rig this election. What are the warnings coming from the British government? Issue of visa ban or what? We'll find out from the British government tonight. Stay with me because first and foremost, we need to check out your election news update and we'll bring you up to speed with all the information you need to know.
A total of 229 election observer groups have been accredited by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) for Saturday's presidential and National Assembly polls. The INEC chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, addressed the groups at a news conference in Abuja, where he notes that the 229 observer groups are collectively deploying 146,913 observers in the 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections.
You are, by definition, observers. Do not interfere with the process or show partisanship.
The presidential candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party, Mr. Rabiu Kwankwaso, has promised to implement free education from primary, secondary up to university level if elected president. Addressing supporters of his party in Funtua local government area of Katsina State, Mr. Kwankwaso also pledges to tackle insecurity by increasing the number of security forces to secure the country's territories. The presidential candidate of the Accord Party, Professor Chris Imomolin, says Nigerian youth have the potential to prefer solutions to the numerous challenges confronting the country. He was speaking during the presidential parley organized by the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru Plateau State. Professor Imomolin emphasizes that the destiny of the nation is tied to the involvement of youth in the development of the country through active participation in politics. Women in the People's Democratic Party, PDP, in the North Central geopolitical zone have promised to deliver their state for Mr. Atiku Abubakar in Saturday's presidential election. They made the promise during a one-day town hall meeting held in Abuja, where the wife of the PDP presidential candidate, Mrs. Titi Abubakar, assures of her husband's plan to give women and youth 60% inclusion in his government. Some Muslim organizations in Kaduna State have endorsed the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Senator Uba Sani, as the next governor of the state. The Muslim group includes the Tijaniya Grassroots Mobilization and Movement Initiative of of Nigeria, the Federation of Muslim Women Associations in Nigeria, Form 1, and the Shagaya Islamic Sect. They made the announcement to meeting with a candidate in Kaduna State. 11 Katsina governorship candidates have pledged to accept the outcome of the March 11 election if it is a free, fair and credible one. They also promise to support and work with whoever emerges the winner of the election. The candidates were speaking during the signing ceremony of the 2023 Katsina Peace Accord held at the officers' mess of the Nigeria Police Force located in the state capital. The INEC resident electoral commissioner in Adamawa State, Mr. Yunusa Ari, has expressed the readiness of the commission to conduct credible polls in the state. Addressing journalists in Yola, the Adamawa state capital, Mr. Ari states that the commission has received 4,104 bimodal voters accreditation system beavers for the 4,104 electoral units in the state.
We have also configured, tested and verified and leveled the beavers according to the polling units covering the state.
And ahead of the 2023 general elections, the national chairman of Road Transport Employers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Musa Meitekobi, is asking members of the association not to allow themselves to be used as political thugs. The group says the association have a role to play in the conduct of a successful general elections and will not tolerate the engagement of members as touts and political thugs.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us right on the program. Don't forget that the program is interactive and we want to get your views on the topics we have for discussion today. So tweet to us on these handles that you can see on your screen using the hashtag 2023verdict or send an email to 2023verdict@channelstv.com. The race is not getting any slower. It's so intense and so much is happening that could swing the trajectory of the race. So we're seeing a lot of actions and the final push from politicians and the candidates today, being 3 days to the election. So this is the state of the race. Samuel Otom has been speaking about his interest for who he thinks will be the best candidates to lead Nigeria in the presidential election of the 25th of February 2023. The governor was obviously speaking passionate in Makurdi, the capital of Benue State, says he's rooting for the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, and he says he doesn't mind even if he loses his seat, where he's running for senatorial election on that Saturday.
It's not even that I'm contesting election. Yes, the forms was bought for me by the people of Benue State. I've gone round. They have accepted that they will vote me. But if I'm to sacrifice my senatorial ambition for Peter Obi to win, so shall it be. And so please, I know that the Igbos, if the people are connected in this world, they are the Igbos. This is the opportunity you have.
All right, then, the governor of Benue State, Samuel Otom. Well, also, today, the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Bola Tinubu, alongside some leaders of the party, stormed Lagos State and show their support for their candidate and their party ahead of Saturday's election. President Muhammadu Buhari also joining in campaigning for the APC candidate. They're showing their support and solidarity in the home state of the APC presidential candidate, promising that they will not disappoint Nigerians should they be given the opportunity. The presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, has also been going around this time around. He's been having some consultation with traditional rulers. He met with some monarchs today where he's promising them that he will deliver on the promises that he's made to Nigerians. Well, we'd like to let you know that Channels Television does not endorse candidates or any political party interest. What we do is purely journalism job. And the image that you can see there is a very bad job of fake news that has been spread widely with my picture on it. And we like to disown that kind of message. It's a terrible message to push out in this election period. We strongly say fake news is terrible for our country. So it's fake news. Wherever you see it on your WhatsApp, delete it. It doesn't mean anything. There's so much interest in Nigeria's election. The world is watching. The bigger economies and democracies are also paying very close attention to this election of Saturday. And tonight we'll be getting to check with the British government on their interest and perhaps how they're supporting Nigeria in this Saturday's election. I'm being joined by the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Katrina Lang. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
It's a great pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. How do you feel? I mean, you've been here for a few years. Now Nigeria is going to a very crucial election. First and foremost, what have you observed in the preparations to the polls?
So, as you say, I've been here nearly 4.5 years, which is quite unusually long, but I particularly wanted to be here for 2 election cycle. So I arrived just before the previous election, and I'll be leaving soon after this one. So the first thing I'd observed is how different this election feels, actually, to the last one. There feels much more engagement, particularly amongst the youth, and we've seen that reflected in the much higher represent people who've registered to vote, who've collecting their PVC cards. Obviously, you need to actually go out and vote on the day, and I would urge them all to do so. I think the second thing is the passing of the Electoral Act, which enables electronic transmission of votes, which also partly accounts, I think, for that increased engagement of the youth. And obviously we have a bigger race this time. There's at least 3 candidates, if not 4, as well as many other smaller parties participating. So that's creating a real sense of energy and enthusiasm and engagement. So that's all very positive. There are some challenges. Nigeria is a huge democracy, a huge country, getting all the logistics in place for an election to run smoothly and credibly on the day. But I think we've been impressed with what INEC has done so far, and they've told us they are ready. And obviously the security on the day, it's very important the security forces do their job, impartially providing a secure environment for people to vote. So still a few days to go, and we're all on tenterhooks. I mean, it really is a close race. I think we're all becoming obsessed with Nigerian politics, but we hope for the best.
Yeah, as you have observed, that Nigerians are very confident people. They don't like to be told what to do. I mean, but there's a lot of lesson to learn from much older democracies. But how would you, or what would you say you've observed with the manner in which politicians have comported themselves?
So I think, I mean, Nigeria's on a democratic journey, but it's really commendable that you've stuck with it since 1999. And as you mentioned earlier, that can't be said for all countries in this region, where we've seen quite a lot of democratic backsliding with coups, with presidents refusing to step down after their term. There's never been any question of that in Nigeria. The 2 times 4 years term has been stuck to. But President Buhari himself has said he feels his most important legacy is a credible and peaceful election. So I think that's all very, very positive. That's not to say there aren't challenges. Each election we hope to see some improvements. What would be very worrying would be to see backsliding on that democratic journey. But I am confident, and I think the people of Nigeria are confident, certainly many of the youth who I've spoken to feel much more confident this time that their vote will count because it's protected through the BVAS, the electronic transmission of votes, and because there's more choice for them. You know, there's candidates they feel they can relate to. So nothing's perfect. No democracy in the world is perfect. In the UK, we have challenges, we learn. But Nigeria's on that journey, on a progressive journey, and the world is indeed watching this election.
What do you think would be the impact of much younger voters? I mean, you said you've observed that there are more enthusiasm between the younger demography. What do you think could be the impact or the implication of that?
Well, I think the message to the youth is if you actually go and turn out to vote, 50% of this population is under 18. There are at least 9.5 million new registered voters, and I think 75% of them are in that 18 to 35 bracket. You could potentially change the outcome of this election. I'm not assuming who they're going to vote for, but the point is their vote will count. So there's a few days to go, so it's been encouraging. People have registered, picking up their cards, but of course the only poll that counts is on the day, so people do need to go out, and that will determine who the winner will be, because the winner will determine on who actually votes on the day. So I would urge them all to complete their journey and go out and vote, and don't feel intimidated. It's really important that people feel they can vote peacefully.
What do you think about the quality of some of the candidates, the top ones?
Well, we've engaged with all the big four, as you might say, but I've met some of the smaller parties as well. We know them well, and like Channels TV, we're not backing any particular candidate. We can work with anybody who wins this election, because that will be the choice of the people of Nigeria. I think whoever comes in is going to have an enormous set of challenges on the economy, on security. So what we've urged all of the presidential aspirants to do is to take bold, early action on those, particularly on the economy, because if the economy functions, the security environment will also improve, because much of the insecurity I think we see is related to joblessness, livelihoods, young men in particular, not having an alternative viable livelihood. So the two are very much linked. So we'll on the day when we see who comes out, assuming there's not a runoff, we stand ready to work with whoever comes through.
The Brexit in the UK is perhaps one thing that most politicians in the UK perhaps will be biting their fingers about, an experience that if a lot of leaders in your country think again about, if they had the opportunity to perhaps rethink their decision, maybe they would have acted differently about the choice of getting a popular vote on that kind of decision that a lot of political analysts across the globe say you don't leave to a popular opinion to determine such a very important decision or a matter in the life of a country as the UK. Looking back at that kind of experience, that's a lot of lesson to learn. If you take that and transpose it into Nigerian experience, what lesson do you think we could learn from some of the missteps of your country, your democracy?
Well, I wouldn't call them missteps. I mean, I think the Brexit referendum, like the Scottish referendum, was a choice that was put to the people of the United Kingdom and in Scotland to determine what kind of future they wanted to have. And it was a close vote. And in the end, the no vote, the leave vote, came through. And it's been challenging for Britain to carve out a new set of relationships with Europe. I mean, it takes time to unravel 40 years of a single market integration.
It has a lot of implications.
and we're still on that journey, but I think we're making good progress. The Northern Ireland Protocol, there's been some really good progress on settling that very tricky bit of the infrastructure, but we're getting there. But I think from a Nigeria point of view, actually, there are opportunities that come from Brexit, because obviously we have more choice now around, particularly on migration, who can come to the UK. We have control over our borders, and indeed many Nigerians have benefited from that. Nigeria is the third biggest student population in the UK. We're benefiting from many talented young entrepreneurs coming to the UK. So, there are opportunities as well as some challenges.
So I'm speaking in the political and the voting sense. And what comes out of such a decision and how much people understand that the decision they make in an election will impact not only on the economy, it will impact on their livelihood generally. And I mean, a lot of Nigerians who are watching you tonight, and the reason why I asked the earlier question is perhaps the decision they will be making on Saturday will affect their lives in so many ways. And that's why I was asking for the lesson that Nigerians could learn also in making a dramatic or a very critical decision.
Well, I think I mean, a referendum is very different, obviously, from an election, because it's about one issue, and you focus on one issue.
And you have to make a decision
but
on that.
The thing that's similar, obviously, is that you should go into an election or a referendum doing your homework and your research and thinking about, does Brexit, how will it affect me personally, my family? And it was a complicated issue, and some people think that shouldn't go to a referendum because it's almost too complicated. But in an election, all the key parties have published their manifestos. I've seen them. What's been quite striking here, actually, is how similar they are. I didn't see huge policy differences amongst the big four. They've all told us they understand the importance of taking those difficult policy decisions. But there are differences, and candidates come with different perspectives, and it's clear the youth have mobilised particularly around one candidate. But in terms of policy, I didn't see a huge set of differences. But the most important thing is people do their research, they think about who overall, which candidate reflects their interest most, who will do the best for them in the future Nigeria, and they make their choice, and then, but they accept the result. That's the most important thing, and the one thing we do need to worry about in Nigeria, because the sort of flip side of a very close election where there's a lot of engagement is there is a lot at stake. There's no predetermined outcome in this election. That's democracy.
How are you helping Nigeria in this election?
So we've been working with Nigeria for many, many years, over 20 years, to help you put in place the framework for this democracy. So with INEC, we've worked, for example, most recently on the Electoral Act. It was supporting the Electoral Act, which INEC will benefit from, helping them do the training of their various people who will go out on the ground. And we support civil society to have a voice, a loud voice, in terms of holding government to account, passing of the Electoral Act. On the day, we'll support the various situation rooms, including Yaga, the Not Too Young to Run campaign. We support their parallel vote tabulation. So essentially, we support INEC, we've supported the judicial process, and we've supported civil society.
Interesting. You've been putting some pressure, not this time alone, in several elections. And the kind of warning that the British government and the US government, as they signal they're sending, sometimes have its own effect. This time around, you have a position, just like your US counterpart, about those who rig elections. What are those specific decisions you have made in respect of those who you think want to manipulate the process or want to rig the 2023 election?
So we've just had a statement put out by our minister, Andrew Mitchell, who's the Development and Africa Minister. I've got it in front of me. And basically, in short, where the UK is aware of attempts to subvert the democratic process, we are prepared to take action against those who engage in or incite electoral violence, or indeed any other anti-democratic behaviour. And the sanction, we have two sort of tools in our toolbox to sanction. One is a visa ban. We can refuse a visa to travel to the UK for people who are undermining the democratic process. Or for more serious behaviours, we have sanctions under our human rights sanctions regime. So we're watching closely. This is not targeted at any particular political party, any individual. It can be applied to anyone. You mentioned earlier some hate speak, that unfortunately is very live in this Nigeria debate in the run-up to the election. And hate speak can incite violence, and that can be extremely dangerous. So we're watching closely. We can never reveal who's been subject to a visa ban for data protection reasons, but I can confirm we have used this tool, and alongside our US counterparts are prepared to use it again.
It's interesting, though, and I mean, you're not worried about those who believe, those who oppose and think that, our colonial masters are back at it again. You don't think that people have that kind of feeling?
No, I don't think this is interference. I think most people I've spoken to welcome this because everyone has a stake in a peaceful, credible election, most of all the people of Nigeria. So it's undermining everyone's right to vote peacefully, to express their preferences. So we are just playing our part in supporting Nigeria's democratic journey. But this is not interference. This is not our election. It's your election.
What are your biggest fears about this election from what you have observed?
So I think there is a worry around insecurity and violence. So in this pre-election period, the number of pre-election incidents is higher than the last election. There's obviously the day of the election itself and following the presidential, the gubernatorial, where we hope people can go out to vote peacefully. But perhaps most worrying is the post-election period, where we have seen in the past in Nigeria that there's been quite intense post-election violence. So in order to avoid that, what we're urging the heads of the political parties to do is to ensure that their supporters go out and vote, of course, but as I said, accept the result. And if they feel they want to challenge anything, to do so through the courts, through the judicial process, to keep things calm during what is going to be a very closely run election. There's a lot at stake. So that's, I guess, one of my fears and worries. But assuming we can get through that, I think the future looks very bright for Nigeria, with the incoming presidential candidate, whoever it is, tackling those difficult challenges. And the UK, like most of the international community, wants Nigeria to succeed, and we're going to be coming in fully behind you.
Yeah. I mean, we need all the support, don't we? And I mean, seeing the UK as a formidable ally in our democratic development gives someone, I mean, some kind of courage that we can push harder and further. On a final note, I see the old democratic journey as not only a Nigerian journey, as a journey, because if it's good in Nigeria, there is some kind of influence and impact that it makes across the globe, because Nigeria, we have the population, and on the African continent, we are a sample, we are a great example for the continent in terms of democratic process, in terms of our political culture and all of that. I mean, whatever happens here, we see that also being transposed in other parts of the continent. But what would you say is the biggest lesson that you think that this process has brought up in Nigeria? This is an election where you have major candidates have emerged in different parts of the country, and it's a big departure from what we have had in the past.
I think it's that rise of the youth who've recognised a political awakening, you know, who've recognised, and probably linked partly to the NSARS movement, has found a direction in this election to channel that energy, that desire for their voice to be heard in Nigeria. Nigeria is a young country, but is still ruled by relatively elderly people. And I think that voice has now been found, and that's going to be so important and a real positive. And the elderly, who we all respect, and we're all becoming older, need to allow space for the youth to come through. And I would also mention importance of women, and that is something, sadly, Nigeria is backsliding on. Nigerian women are successful in all walks of life. Just last week, we were celebrating through International Women's Day Gala Award that the female ambassadors here in Nigeria have put together. Amazing, successful women in the media, in law, in everything, but not in politics, because it's just too difficult. You know, the people who secured these positions in the National Assembly, mostly men, do not want women to come through, sadly. There are exceptions. There are some really good he for she's. But there's only one female gubernatorial candidate. It's just not good enough. So the big lesson for Nigeria as well is, like, embrace this inclusion, embrace the youth, embrace women, and that's where Nigeria really will succeed.
For the person who becomes the winner of this election, what message do you have for such a person?
Be bold, take those tough decisions and take them early, have courage, and we'll come in behind you.
Interesting. And perhaps one thing that is here is the message, the fact that whoever becomes Nigeria's next president may not have the magic wand to erase all of the problems. But what would you say, you've been around for some time in this country, and as a diplomat, you definitely have a lot of information. What would you say the next president should focus on as a priority?
Well, I think it's got to be the economy, number one, because that's what's holding Nigeria back. And as I mentioned, I think the economy failing is also causing a lot of the insecurity. Not all of the insecurity, but a large part of it. So there are, you know, 2 or 3 key decisions an incoming president has to take. Number one is to remove the fuel subsidy, which is draining the fiscus, but to do it in a way that protects poor people. Secondly, to tackle the multiple exchange rates, businesses just will not invest in this country if they can't secure their foreign exchange. And three, raise taxes. You have one of the lowest tax ratios in the modern world. Without raising revenue, you can't invest in public services, and in public services, infrastructure, education is key to the future. But the other point I just wanted to emphasize again is whoever comes in, build a strong, inclusive team with young people, with women in your team at the top table. Bring all that talent together and reach out to other political parties. A strong, inclusive team to help you and support you as a leader in what's going to be a pretty enormous set of challenges.
You mentioned security as one of the challenges. This obviously is. The question is the British government doing enough to assist?
Well, we've been supporting the Nigerian government for many years, particularly since the horrible incident with the taking of the Chibok girls. So we do a lot of training of your military, particularly around how to conduct operations in a human rights compliant way. And we support the military in understanding it. It's not just a kinetic approach, it's non-kinetic as well, drawing on very long experience we've had in Northern Ireland, in Iraq, in Afghanistan and so on. So we've got a very strong security and defence partnership. We take stock every 6 months. The next one to round off with this administration will be in April, actually, and then we're preparing the groundwork to do more on counter-terrorism, on cyber security, on serious organised crime with an incoming administration, listening to where they want us to focus and hopefully scaling up our support.
Thank you so much, Katrina Lang, for talking to us. Is this going to be one of your major final events before you leave the country? I mean, the expiration of your time as a British High Commissioner. But I must thank you so much for gracing our studio tonight. Thank you so much indeed. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a great pleasure.
It's good to see you. Thank you so much. We'll take a break, everyone. And when we come back, the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Datti Baba Ahmed, will be joining me. What does these last 3 days portend for their party? What are the chances? Does the Peter Obi Datti ticket enough to win the election? And we'll be hearing what the Samuel Autumn endorsement mean for the Labour Party in the north central region of the country. Stay with me, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's turn our attention to mainstream politics, and I have with me the Labour Party Vice Presidential candidate, Mr. Datti Baba Ahmed. Thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Pleasure and duty once again.
Yeah. How do you feel the final 3 days?
I feel energized. More and more political parties, not just key individuals, are coming into our fold, running into our warm embrace, and sharing our lofty ideas for Nigeria. ADC yesterday, the Governor Autumn of the Benue State. These are people who make the difference. Right now, you cannot count 12 states in Nigeria that we cannot command 25% and above. But above all, and gladdens my heart so much that from my first submission of this fact in Lagos, that out of 18 political parties who filed presidential candidates, more or less it is correct to say that 15 have fallen behind. Out of the 3 left, 2 have misconfigured themselves. They have fallen out of alignment with the dictates of winning elections in Nigeria. By that I mean, why today Tinubu is not the vice president of Nigeria is the same reason he cannot be president. What couldn't happen in 2015 when the then candidate Buhari asked for any nomination whatsoever from Tinubu? Because that configuration has passed. It can no longer work in Nigeria.
What kind of configuration are you talking about?
Showing you know. Don't make me say it.
Please do. I mean, what configuration are you talking about?
Muslim,
because I'm not, I mean...
Muslim ticket cannot work anymore. You've made me say it now. I don't like to speak about tribe or religion.
No, I was not clear about it.
That configuration cannot work anymore. And since you made me say it, I must go back a little then. Give me just 3 minutes to tell you. There is issue of faith on this. The creator of heavens and earth does not make mistakes. This is Federal Republic of Nigeria, as duly filed at the United Nations and registered too. It's not the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for example, or the Vatican, or Iran, or Libya, or Mauritania. It's Federal Republic, and God didn't make mistake by putting all of us, 250. You find other countries, nearly 100%, one faith, one language, one group. Not the same in Nigeria. 250 at least, and 2 big competing religions. And we say that it's not a mistake from our Creator. Then his verses followed that we must do justice to each other. Then our political history followed afterwards. 79, Obasanjo Shagari, Babangida to Shoneko, Abdul Salam to Obasanjo, Obasanjo to late Malam Umaru, to Jonathan, back to Buhari. This is the 4th DNA of Nigeria. That DNA regulates our body temperature. Without it, our body overheats and we die from that fever. So these 2 political parties have misaligned with the issue of faith and political history of Nigeria. They are simply on the ballot paper. They are not in the ballot box. They are wasting our time. They are, well, it's good they have the money to spend if they get the new Naira notes. They have kept that money for this rainy day. They have the money to spend, so spend it, but that's all they're doing. There's only one political party that is in place, rightly configured, rightly staffed, rightly equipped, rightly, how can I say, energized and motivated for winning 2023 presidential elections. We didn't engage in violence. We suffered it. We didn't engage in abuses. We suffered it. We said the right things. We talked about issues. We can tell you directly what we'll do with subsidy scam. We can tell you what we'll do with exchange scam. And another thing you will see is that when we win, inshallah, we're not coming after Tinubu and Atiku. We're going after the terrorists and the bandits. We're not going after any politician. We're going after the corrupt officials. And there's a systematic way we'll do it. We'll stop the corruption, make sure that it's not happening in our own, before you go after anybody. Not the other way around like they did this time around and failed in 2015.
And you're not worried about corruption fighting back when that time comes?
I'm not worried because we'll defeat it. When you fail against corruption, it's because you're corrupt. I'm very, very confident about it. There are 2 reasons. If you collected too much money and you feel indebted to the extent that the appointments, you have to look the other way and appoint all sorts of characters, again, like it happened, I don't have to tell you there. And if you yourself are corrupt and in need of, Peter Obi doesn't need anything else in this world. I'm too modest to say the same, but I can say about him. He belongs to the club that, what else is he going to get in this world anymore?
You mean he's wealthy enough that he doesn't really...
He is thankful enough. There is nothing you will point to in this world that he hasn't already had it when he was much younger. And he doesn't need any more. What he needs now is, like I always say, stop the killings in Nigeria. That's what I need to.
So is it because people have enough, that's the reason why they don't steal anymore?
Not everybody. Some people, the more they have, the more they steal.
So that's the reason why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you think Peter Obi, if he wins the election, will not engage in any kind of...
No, that is one of the reasons.
Why you think that he will not?
Because he is content, he is satisfied, he has no need for anything. The second reason is that, of course, his records stand for him. As a governor who served for 8 years, did not borrow a penny, left behind 75 billion naira and has up till today not collected a penny. So add the fact that he's very content, add his records to it. We will fight corruptions, and any corruption that tries to fight us, will be sorry. Because we'll defeat it.
I mean, so
remember,
there are people who are working.
I'm the architect of today's due process. What you have as due process, I started it. So anything procurement, I am deeply, deeply in it. I was never, how can I say, able to join the government functions since 2003 and 4, but the initial law for due process, I was on the technical committee when Obi was heading that unit. We will fight corruption, and any corruption that tries to fight back will defeat because of our history,
what about
our record,
civil service problems?
Yes, we will also defeat it.
Are you looking in the direction of the Steve Oronsaye report?
Yes, but
you will implement it.
Well, not in totality. There's a lot of good in it. We will take what is good. We're coming with this flair for living wages, and we start from the bottom. I have always said this, that our good friend, the police constable on the road, first thing is to eliminate the need for the police constable on the road to collect 20 or 15 naira on the road. We would actually target how much does a decent 9-to-5 working Nigeria need to make a decent living. And then we will walk that way to make sure, even if we don't start from the first month, at least everybody can see logically that in the first 4 years, we are bringing everybody. So your entire family needs are coming from a legitimate source. There is no room for you to calculate corruption in your family budget. That is what we're trying to eliminate.
So
and in that case, we have all justification. Civil service, military, and then, of course, because we're business people, we'll know how the business, the private sector, will also pay living wages to their employees without inflation.
Do you know, Mr. Datti, do you know what some of your critics are saying about your sort of ideas about how you hope to change this and how you hope to change that? For those who have stayed in government for a long time, they think that there is a bit of a naivety in some of your ideas, that the civil service and government does not work exactly the way you are portraying it. And what your opposition have said is you will come into office should you win this election and discover that's you're saying something opposite, directly opposite what is possible.
We are very sure. And let me tell you, at the dawn of every great revolution, of every great idea, is an idea or is an action which the people ordinarily would think is a crazy one. I repeat, at the dawn of every breakthrough is a lurking, crazy idea. Peter Obi studied philosophy. I studied economics to the philosophy level. I was behind, I just told you now, what we call due process. Every invention, be it in technology, be it in science, be it in business, at the very beginning of it is something that people will tell you immediately this will never work. When I brought due process in 1999, people told me straight away, forget it, this is Nigeria, it will never work. Government ended up bringing it, the name was contract certification. It ended up coming out as due process. When I get into government, we'll correct it to what it was supposed to be. Now, naivety is never a bad thing, let me tell you. Because we are broad-minded. You take a naive, crazy idea, you sieve it, okay? What is important is that within that naivety, is there at the end of that tunnel the light they are looking for? Then refine your direction, head for your objective, put all your energies until you achieve it. Every major breakthrough in this world started as an unfounded idea, as a fresh idea. So we are used to it. There's something we call inertia. Ordinarily, the lazy human being wants to live today like he lived yesterday. And then the progressive mind is thinking tomorrow must be different from today. So these are two opposite ends of the spectrum. Let me finish. These are two opposite ends of the spectrum. The forward-thinking person must win. Because if he is defeated by the one who wants to live like yesterday, there will be no progress in society. Now, our critics are more than welcome to say these kind of things because they only make us to introspect. We take criticisms in good faith. You tell Peter Obi he's an Hollywood star. He tells you, oh, I have to work with those guys. This is how we behave. And this is how we'll bring about the changes. So therefore, naivety, as far as we're concerned, is a plus on our side. And what they think is naive, as far as we're concerned, is food for thought for us on how to rescue and move Nigeria forward. It is welcome. We want more and more of those criticisms, so long as they are not the kind of insults we've been receiving. We will take them, okay, transform them into ideas, take what is good and work with it, and what is bad and leave it.
I mean, the pains of Nigerians are real. The sufferings are real. The poverty in the land, this is very real. And I mean, I mentioned a word on Sunday that some people find a bit controversial. And there is a mindset in the heart of a lot of voters who think that they are going to vote in a Messiah. A Messiah is a word used in the Bible sense of someone who will come and take away all your pains magically. And for those of your supporters who think that Peter Obi and Datti are the Messiah to take all their pains away, those expectations need to be managed. And these are the reasons why I'm asking. It's almost impossible to solve Nigeria's economic problem in the first 1 year you get into office. It's almost impossible to resolve all the security problems just when you get into office. It's almost impossible to resolve all of the ethnic and the unity problems that Nigerians are facing. How do you manage these expectations? Because should you be elected president, it's with the same force that Nigerians will be expecting from you. Are you aware of the enormity of the work on the table?
We are aware. When campaigns began, and Middle Belt was endorsing us in Plateau State, in Jos, as I climbed the stage and I saw the sea of people, the entire stadium was filled with human beings. Really, I didn't get excited, I got scared. And I said, this is the number of people we have to make happy. And I whispered to Excellency Obi, do you see these people? He smiled and said, I said, these are the number of people we have to make happy. Again, he smiled. Now, to answer your questions, managing expectation is a science. And the receiver of good governance, I would like to tell you, is a human being. So long as you communicate with a human being that I have taken the right direction, you've already fulfilled. Now, there is, in the entire world, there is no economy or no society that is at 100% happiness or efficiency. None. Now, if you cannot travel at night, or even in the daytime, on a continental highway between two of the most populous cities, for example, Kano and Kaduna, or Kaduna and Abuja, and in the first 1 month, we do the needfuls, and Nigerian citizens can travel in relative safety. If in the first 100 days we implement in such a way that Nigerian contracts for works, procurements and everything are no longer inflated as they were, and we are technically able to substitute those profits going into privileged few into better salary for hardworking Nigerians. The police constable that I spoke to you about. If we implemented that, Nigerian forces are strong enough, you hurt or you harm our citizen, that day or the next day you will be behind bars, justice will be served on you. That is the direction. We have achieved the better part of it. The rest of it is we continue to refine, sharpen focus, and continue to move forward, of course, with the buy-in of our dear citizens. That is why we think 2023 is indeed a most special thing. The name that came for our supporters, obedience, we'll remind them, dear obedience, you were obedience before we were elected. We expect you to continue to be obedient.
Because the hungry man, as soon as he's expecting the first 6 months, and the food that he is hungry about is not coming, he becomes disobedient. And that is the reason why I'm asking whether or not that realization of the enormity of the work that is on the table is there. Because you said you want to fix the economy. The money is not just there. We have a revenue problem.
The money is there, Shehu. Can I tell you? End the subsidy scam. Money is starting to be there. End the FX scam. Money is starting to be there.
Let me finish. Just hold on. Let's take it one after the other.
Just
hold on, Mr. Datti. Okay. Let's take the subsidy, for example. You end the subsidy. What it then means that there is a possibility of the hike in the price of the commodity of petrol, for example. That naturally will. That's one thing.
Only one.
And that's a very popular commodity.
Look, you're speaking with economic technicians. How many households have those cars, gas guzzling cars? And then we are working for mass transit, clean energy, even though not in the first 2 years, some form of clean energy to start coming afterwards. Let me finish enumerating to you. For every fears that Nigerians have, at the moment we have our answers. Not just do we have answers, we are the people who speak what we know we will do. We are the people who have done what we have said in the past. We are the ones who have done it. Realizing the enormity, yes. And that is why the office of the President Commander-in-Chief, Federal Republic of Nigeria, has so much enormous powers. That is why. I'm telling you where the money is. Reshaping the budget, removing the overinflation element in government procurements and works, that is money. Meeting our OPEC quota, that is money, show. Then come and add what Peter Obia has been saying. Nigeria will make a lot more money from agric than we'll be making from oil. Not in the first year, but we'll begin to see the action from about 18 months afterwards. And before the end of 4 years, you will see huge farmlands, and those 20 million children out of school are partly in the farmlands and partly getting their education there on the farmlands. Because we know how to mix and achieve multiple results.
Would you say Nigerians should fire you should you not meet their expectation after 4 years?
Absolutely. Please record this show. Record this, all Nigerians that are listening to this. I am not a time waster. Peter Obi is not a time waster. He served 8 years in Anambra State, has left behind the kind of record that governors are not even contemplating to emulate. I have served as a federal legislator in Reps and in Senate, and I have done such special legislations that no one has attempted to do. So yes, we are aware of the enormity. We are committed to doing it, and we'll continue to ask our citizens buy-in into our lofty objectives. And for God's sake, if you are not satisfied after 4 years, do what you feel like.
Like firing you.
Fire us. Who are we?
All right. Let me
listen. We have said it. Now, we are not contesting in our own rights as Obi and Baba Ahmed. Nigerians are contesting through us.
All right. Let's take a break. And when we come back, I still have a long list of questions for you about the essence of your running for this race. Whether or not you will win this election, that's another thing. There are those who believe that It's all vibes. You are just in the air. You're not on the ground. That you don't even have enough agents in the polling unit. How then do you want to win an election? We'll find out from you when we return from this break. Stay with me, everyone. My conversation with Senator Datti Baba Ahmed continues after this break. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's get back to the conversation with Senator Datti Baba Ahmed, the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Our closing moment, and I'd like to ask you some very quick questions. How many of the agents do you have? Do you have agents across all the polling units in the country today?
We do. But please, allow me just to leave it there. This is best answered by our national chairman.
No, you were having some problems.
We do. There's nothing in politics that works without problems, especially if that politics is a Nigerian one. This is strictly for our national chairman, and he's handling it very, very well. Let me not interfere.
Are you having funding problems?
No. Because, like you said, expectations. Even before we manage the expectations in government, we managed the expectations of the people who are moving along with us. We are very lean in our operations, very effective. We make sure that equipment, materials arrive just in time, and we dress everything down to on the need basis. It doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg. It doesn't have to cost a country next 3.5 years' income because you're running an election. Our budget has been the most reasonable I could see.
Where would you say most of your monies have come from?
From personal resources, from supporters, from groups that believe in our cause. And boy, are they many.
So you have support from also well-meaning Nigerians. And I'd like to also know, when you're talking about fighting corruption, should you discover that some of the people who have supported you heavily need some favor, or are people whose hands have been dirty, have stolen public funds, will you look the other way?
It will be very difficult for us to find those people because we have been screening them right from now. We are not greenhorns in Nigerian politics. There are many people whom we have not agreed to meet face to face. We are not in this with strange bedfellows. Like you hear some parties three parties came together and they were formally opposed. Everybody brought resources from. It's not like that. We don't right now have somebody you call a heavy supporter. There are millions of small supporters and there are thousands of mid supporters. Somebody who helps you with what you know maybe is some compromise he made from his personal budget, some sacrifice he can afford to forgo a certain luxury for the sake of Nigeria. We have tens of thousands of such. So I don't see what you are saying happening in the case of Labour Party. Labour Party, like I have said, is that Nigerian party that is for the typical 9-to-5 employee, is for the typical hard earner of legitimate income, businessman, trader, farmer. Labour Party is for the artisan. Labour Party is for the tradesmen and for also big, respectable, well-known, established business people. These are us. Labour Party is not for gatekeepers, it's not for influence peddlers, it's not for money launderers. However, if such people were to approach us as a form of repentance, that God will forgive them and they will not do, we'll be quick to remind them, A, that we only accept clean, funds in tune with the provisions of the Electoral Act.
Let's wrap up now.
And when they come back to ask for those favors, we will remind them that they have repented. And by the way, this is how we do business in Nigeria now. There is no more pure subsidy scam. Because you are related to Mr. President doesn't mean you go and get FX at the CBN or some loan that they know you will never repay. You were about to ask me if we think we will win this election.
Do you think so?
With all modesty and sense of the fact that power comes from Almighty God, I know so. I know so because out of the three, two are out of the race. They are on the ballot paper. They are not in the ballot box. There's only one political party left that is in tune with Nigerian political history and Nigerian politics, in fact, and that is Labour Party. You have, well, Peter Obi said, do not vote him because he's Christian or because he's from the Southeast. He said that, and I believe him. I said about the same when I was contesting right
because,
from
I mean,
let me tell you.
The people, Mr. Datti, the people that you even say you are going to beat, you're talking about Atiku and Tinubu, right? And the APC and the PDP.
Yes.
Yeah, you think you will beat them. They even say that you cannot even win your polling unit. Not to talk of your ward or Kaduna State.
I like that. Seun, right now is on social media that one day my house was surrounded by DSS. There is nothing that people do not say, Seun. This is what you have to understand.
You have confidence that Kaduna is in the bag for you?
Kaduna is an APC state, but it falls under our category A, which is a simple win. Kaduna is category A in the whole of Northwest.
Which of the states in Nigeria do you think might be difficult for you to win?
Well, Yobe and Farah, of course. Those are two good friends. They are difficult to win.
Lagos, Kano?
By the grace of God, we have won Lagos, irrespective of Tinubu there. I mean, are they going to come out and, do you understand, spread the people who are voting? I was answering your question about winning this election. Seun, it is logical. Many things that have never happened in Nigeria before are happening now with Labour Party. We're the only three party chairman, candidate, vice, born after independence. I'm losing modesty here. He is a correct degree earner, which others cannot show you. I know Kwankwaso says he has a PhD. I don't boast about my PhD or 2 master's degrees. I don't talk about those kind of things.
We have to go now.
Listen,
yeah,
education.
We're out of time now.
Okay, just to answer your question.
Yeah.
2023 presidential elections, by the special grace of Almighty Allah who gives power, is as good as won by Labour Party because of the mistakes others have made.
All right. We have to leave it at that. Thank you so much,
yes.
Senator Datti Baba Ahmed. I guess we'll be able to talk to you just after the election. Thank you so much, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. But that's our show for tonight, everyone. Don't forget that the fake news that you're seeing being peddled on social media, Channels Television does not endorse any political party or candidate. Please disregard such information. And that's how we leave it tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow again at 7 p.m. Bye for now.